All right. So we can go ahead and get started if you all are ready. My name is James Green. I'm the director of our program, and we're excited to spend some time with you today talking about product management, specifically about the career aspect, opportunities to either begin a career in product management, or maybe you are already in that space or near that space, in which case we're going to share with you, what we think are some opportunities, some pitfalls, and some ways to kind of navigate that as well. So, by way of introduction, again, my name is James Green. I'm the director of our master's program in product management. I've been at the university since 2004. I had worked in a variety of, let's say, kind of product management and product management adjacent roles prior to that, predominantly in the software space in the late 90s and early 2000s. And we also, I think, are going to kind of introduce ourselves a bit as we do our respective sections. So you'll hear from John Johnson, who is a faculty member and kind of our colleague and developing a number of product management courses and programs here on campus. Tushar and Michael, I believe, are going to introduce themselves respectively as they begin to introduce their respective parts. And they play kind of a unique role as faculty and also practitioner, which is what we like to do for a number of our programs here on campus, particularly the ones that are kind of multidisciplinary and very applied in nature. So quick minute on objectives. So we're going to talk about product management for just a moment. We recognize that many of you might be brand new to the space, and we don't want to make any assumptions there. We won't spend a lot of time there. We're going to talk some about career opportunities, the kind of historic and evolving role of product management and how that might differ from project management and some other disciplines that you might be familiar with. We'll spend some time talking about careers, responsibilities, how to enter the space, how to grow in the space, how you may have various levels of product managers and kind of what do they do and what does that mean? And then we'll also be spending some time on new pathways and how do you enter? You don't necessarily start at the beginning like you maybe used to do. That's one of many different paths to enter the space. And we're probably going to spend about half of our time on Q&A. So again, about half the time on prepared remarks, and then half the time on Q&A based on what you want to know. So when we look at product management, and John, you can go ahead and build this out. Classically, you see kind of this Venn diagram where there is an element tied to business and, the business case for the product and either improving existing product or developing new products. There's the technology space of you've got to build the thing and you're engaging with the engineers, the computer scientists, computer engineers, whomever else might be involved in the particular kind of product that you're developing. And then there's the kind of the third leg of the stool and the user experience, the voice of the customer, the kind of customer experience and development, and being sure that, you're building something that works for them and makes sense and solves some problem or helps them realize some opportunity. So in that way, I would say this is still true, albeit a little bit simplified, but this is kind of a quick way of appreciating kind of the multidisciplinary nature of the discipline and the kinds of teams that you would work with and the kind of skill sets, at least on the conversant level, that it's advantageous to build as well. We like stats. Many of us have engineering backgrounds, and so we wanted to share a few numbers here regarding the opportunity in the space is tremendous. It's a large space that's growing very quickly. A lot of opportunities out there from big companies that from smaller companies you may not know. Emerging spaces in government and universities and a number of other areas as well, and some pretty attractive salaries as well. And we'll talk too about salaries a little bit later. And naturally, that's going to depend on kind of the level that you are performing the function at as well.
Excellent. And so some of you may be wondering, okay, what exactly is product management and how does it compare to the types of businesses that are out there? Some people don't quite understand maybe the difference between product and project management. And there has been a lot of advancing of product management as a new way of working. To help orient us, I want to show you how two different types of businesses at the extreme, complex systems and volume operations, orchestrate the different parts of the value chain in order to deliver to customers. So delivery is going to be going down. And first, when it comes to research, complex systems are systems that are being built with qualitative scenarios, usually working with some kind of key stakeholder, expert, or owner. And volume operations, these are products that you usually release to a large market. We're looking at quantitative analytics. With design, in complex systems, it's about integrating modules to achieve some new hyper form of functionality. With volume operations, you want to produce something for market that are modules that can integrate. In terms of sourcing, the complex systems are at the margin in terms of meeting the extremes, whereas volume operations are at the mean. In terms of manufacturing, the requirement is adaptive, new methodologies for complex systems. But in volume operations, the opportunity is in achieving excellence through deterministic processes and reducing variation. Oh, was I on mute there for a second?
I accidentally did that. So I think the last maybe 5 to 10 seconds I muted you. Apologies.
Oh, no problem. Okay, so with manufacturing, in order to develop complex systems which are operating at the margins in terms of the extremes of what's possible, we are using adaptive methodologies in order to put together new, novel ways of solving problems that are engineeringly excellent. When it comes to volume operations, deterministic processes allow us to release to the market with consistency and the ability to ensure quality. In terms of how we go to market, when we go to market with complex systems, it requires pulling together the right subs and those with the key capabilities in order to meet some specified need. But with volume operations, you have to have the customer find you through branding and promotion. In terms of selling, it's very high touch and complex systems. I mean, basically, as you think about this, think about the type of work that Northrop Grumman does, Lockheed Martin tends to do. With volume operations, it's low touch. You want to basically, in the best case scenario, have the product sell itself. And when it comes to servicing, there's usually open-ended consultations. There's a lot of wraparound services with complex systems. But in volume operations, the goal is to end the transactions and to essentially have it be a complete service to the point that a complete product offering to the point that you don't need to continue to service it. So in terms of reality and realization, this is in order to understand the two different types. I want to give you an example. So imagine that you're building a minivan and you have influencers, users, buyers. Those the buyers, of course, are the people who are going to be actually purchasing the van. But the users might be a family. It might be those who are going to be sharing and using it. And the influencers are all those people who are writing about it. Well, in order to understand what the opportunities are, a product manager will work with marketing and design and manufacturing to come up with, across all of these functions, how can we make something that is going to truly meet the intersection of these concerns, the usability, the place and the ability to compete in the market, the ability to actually produce the minivan, and then marketing and sales will come back to deliver it to the buyers and with a goal of having closed-ended services. But when building a race car, you're going to have some owner that wants their team and their driver and crew in order to win or to do some great feat or event. And they're going to be working with a program manager who has project managers with cross-functional teams who are working and getting direct feedback and adapting the design and how this runs with the crew and the driver. So these, again, they're the two extremes. Now, this is what it was before. But the reality is that in every business, we're being disrupted because of the information age. And we are seeing that many results of this disruption is that 90% of capital projects have an IT component. The Internet of Things allows all of our products to speak and to give us feedback immediately on how they're being used, where the errors are. And 50% of complex systems are failing, oftentimes due to a lack of understanding the value, technical, and business alignment risks. So those who want to win in either marketplace have to integrate and use approaches from both. Product managers who typically have run in volume operations must learn to deliver faster and more rapidly test their ideas to compete. That means that they need to have adaptive methodologies to test and reproduce product risks before they go to market. They need to work with whole teams and iteratively develop and deliver. And they need to get to market faster in order to have a better product market fit. Meanwhile, the project and program managers who are also working in these typically the complex systems, they need better risk management strategies. They need to understand what is going to be the future use, not just the now use of their complex systems. And they need to be better strategically positioned for solutions into the future. They need analytics to optimize the systems, and they need to better design and make these systems more resilient. A really good example of this is actually a project that I did as a senior agile project manager at the National Archives. And in this case, when I arrived, they needed both demand forecasting, which was the ability to see into the future about who's going to be using essentially what was a Google for the government offering. That's what the ERA 2.0 project was. It was an opportunity for the National Archives to ingest all of this digital data that's been created since the information age started. And they realized they needed to start doing this in 2005, and they got to it in 2015. They had me there along with a whole team with IBM looking to deliver what was called ERA 2.0. And it was a cloud native system, but they didn't have a forecast yet. And they needed to develop one in order to understand who are going to be users now and into the future, and to understand the performance requirements. But they also needed to be able to rapidly deliver using agile systems and feedback in order to develop something that was on the margins of what could be done. And this included beta testing new services that weren't even released yet to the public in Amazon Web Services. So what we're talking about then is that as a modern product manager, or as a project manager working in a product framework, which is oftentimes the case as well, you need to be able to do both. Build the product right and build the right product. And the intersection of these two is what we can achieve with better risk management. We have to be able to answer the questions: can we build it based on early testing and feedback? The feasibility question is key, but even more key is, will they buy it? Does it offer value? Can they figure out how to use it? And finally, can we support it as a business? These four questions that are at the core of product management, are only answered by bringing together both views. In order to do this, we have to know how to use lean processes in order to discover and learn about what's the right product. We have to use marketing analytics, and we have to be able to design and roadmap out a future development for the product. In terms of building the right systems, building the product right, we have to have adaptive systems. We have to do really good stakeholder management and bring together team leadership. The way that these two are being connected is, again, with the fact that everything is digitally enabled. There isn't a single business out there that isn't being disrupted these days. It doesn't matter if you're producing drinks like Starbucks, if you're doing banking, it doesn't matter if you're building new vehicles or if you're doing IT services. Everything has a digital component. And as a result, we need to now apply agile systems in DevOps in order to connect discovering and building the right product with delivering and building the product right. We need to use data science in order to dive into the details that we get back from these early small releases and these early tests with our markets. And then we need to be able to lead the whole team with product leadership and be able to provide the vision that can actually carry the team forward and do it well. So this is the requirement when it comes to product management. I'm now going to turn it over to Michael, who can talk a little bit about the bodies of knowledge that are essential for product managers.
Thanks, John. So, Michael O'Connor. So, I'm with Medtronic. I'm a senior research program director, working with spine robotics in Israel. Been with Medtronic 20 years, been a med device 32. I'm a graduate of the University of Maryland in 2014 with a PhD in civil engineering, majoring in project management, and a whole host of a lot of other things. But to this slide here, on the Product Development Management Association, PDMA National Board, and Project Management Institute. I sit on the Global Council, and I'm the PMI Minnesota chapter president. So I could talk for an hour on this slide, but we're going to keep it to a few minutes to keep us on track. So PDMA has a body of knowledge on product development, so for product managers. And they also have a certification called the NPDP, or the New Product Development Professional. I was certified probably 15 years ago, and I've been with PDMA and PMI for over 20 years. So you can see the body of knowledge with PDMA. I'm not going to go through all those things, but it does have a lot of really solid areas, and it has some crossover like portfolio management into the project management area. So there is some dovetailing. And the reason I got involved with PDMA and PMI is because I straddled the line of product management and project management, and I saw the need to have both these things. So it's really good that Maryland has both of these things available to you. And I know we're talking mainly about product management, but PMA is a great organization for that. On the other side of PMI, you can see the PMBOK, the Project Management Body of Knowledge. And so they went from the 6th edition to the 7th edition, probably about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And the 7th edition is actually a little leaner, but there's a lot of good things that are important nowadays, like stakeholders, the complexity of project management and value delivery that John has already talked about. Value delivery and value is in a lot of what we do every day in most of our organizations. So that's something you need to keep in mind, is what's the value you're bringing to the organization and what you're doing. And then there's the PMI Standards Plus. At PMI, there's a section dedicated to PMI Standards Plus. We can get all these standards, plus a lot of other information. And I wish I would have put the slide in, John, but there's a whole section of free things from PDMA and PMI too that we could talk about after. But I will point out that there's 2 things that you can take that I would do if I was interested in project management at all. That's the kickoff for waterfall and the kickoff for agile. So I'll just mention that. You can get that if you do a Google search on PMI. So next slide, please, John. So you have 2 methodologies here: SAFE and Discipline Agile. SAFE is for the bigger organization. I haven't used so much when it comes to that, but I am a certified Scrum Master and certified Scrum product owner through Agile Alliance. And so that works with the Agile Manifesto. If you're not familiar with that, I would look that up. Agile is getting to be a big part of what everyone does. My company is strictly waterfall, but we sprinkle in agile, and there's places for agile. So knowing both waterfall and agile are really important. The next area here is discipline agile. That's what PMI purchased in 2019 from Mark Line and Scott Abler. And there's a good book that's Choose Your Wow. And discipline agile is a little bit different in agile, that it gives you more specific areas to pick from. You can see up on top there the design, plan, monitor, operate, etc. That whole process, that iterative process, you can pick and choose some things that might be really pertinent to your project, just like agile. So to me, discipline agile is kind of like agile plus. And this is through PMI. You can be a discipline agile Scrum Master. You can be a certified coach. There's a lot of things you can do. But discipline agile is basically what PMI has, and it has a host of information. So if you're interested in it, I would look at the book Choose Your Wow by Mark Line and Scott Abler. I think those are the main things there. I want to keep it brief, but we'll look for some questions. Feel free to reach out to me if you have anything, but I will turn it over now to Tushar.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tushar Rathod. I have my own consulting company. I do product management consulting and coaching, mentoring in the DC area. My clients include the federal government, PwC, Ernst & Young. I've worked with the Big Four and some large corporations like JP Morgan, Chick-fil-A, and others. So we heard a lot about what the product management is, the project management pieces, how the frameworks are being brought in. Now let's bring the conversation home. Like, what does this really mean for you, right? So if you are a practitioner, or you want to be a practitioner of product management, what does this mean? Where does this take you? How do you get into it? All of those pieces. We'll start with really understanding what does a product manager do, and broadly speaking, what are the three big buckets of product management as a career, right? So a very important piece of product management is strategizing, right? Really figuring out the what and the why, and then translating that into product decisions. So you start by developing a clear vision. What does my product stand for? Who am I serving, right? Clarity of that big picture is essential to successfully delivering any product, right? And from there, from that vision, you build out the details, you build out a strategy. The strategy may have multiple components, like, what are the different rollout plans? What are the, OKRs, that stands for objectives and key results? What are the KPIs? What are the roadmaps? What are the different pieces you're going to do to bring that product into the market, right? And that brings us to operational work, right? So the operational work is what actually delivers that strategy roadmap and makes that product a reality. So the roadmap, starts with the current state. What is the current state of affairs? How do I go about it? What are the objectives? What are the outcomes? What are the outputs? And align all of those to actually deliver value, right? And that brings us to, tactical work, right? So technical work is the here and now. What are the problems right in front of me? What are the things that what are the obstacles that I need to overcome, right? What is the alignment piece? What is the communication piece? What are the risks that have become issues? So I need to deal with all of that here and now. And that's the technical piece, right? So all of these things flow and interrelate to each other, right? You can't do just a strategic piece by itself, can't do just operational work, and certainly can't do just tactical work. All of these things have to flow, have to connect. These are different ways of, and in a given day, you may do any combination of these different pieces of work. In more mature product organizations, you may see these bodies of work around product management a little more defined, a little more segregated, and very role aligned, which brings us to the next slide, where we'll talk about different roles and how you can build a career in product management, and where do you start, how do you get there, all of those pieces. So let's say you are in some kind of a technical role and you've done well, or you may be in a non-technical / business / semi-technical role, and you are now transitioning or interested to transition into product management. And a good way to start is by becoming an associate product manager, depending on where you are in terms of your career trajectory, right? That is typically an individual contributor role. Some reference numbers, say take home 80K. You may be a project manager. You can transition from being a project manager, a senior project manager, a senior functional manager into a product manager, or grow from an associate product manager into a product manager. And at that point, you are typically leading the team. You have a certain responsibility. You're driving a set of roadmaps for your product, and you are responsible for delivering certain outcomes. From there, you may grow into a senior product manager role, where you may have other product managers, associate product managers working with you, under you. You may be working at a more senior level. You may have product lines that you may be responsible for, and you may be responsible for driving different products in different stages of their life cycle. And as you grow from being a senior product manager, you can grow up to a director level, where now you are starting to get into like a business responsibility. You have a certain level of P&L responsibility. You are responsible for the numbers and driving performance. You are responsible for making the case to say, okay, we spend this much money, but look at the value that we are creating. This is how we are shaping. This is where we are in the marketplace. This is how the competition looks, and this is what we're going to do to our product, to our organization, to take it forward, take it further, right? And then that brings us to a head of product kind of role, which is really, you are responsible for potentially your entire line of business, a business unit, maybe an organization, depending on how big you are. The head of product is there for you're making some big funding decisions, strategic decisions, resource decisions. You are trying to figure out the strategy of how we are going to compete in the short, medium, and long term. What are the different pieces? How do I move around the resources? What is my partnership strategy? All bringing all of these different pieces together to shape what the future or the more strategic pieces of your products might be. That's what we were talking about in the previous slide. And in terms of the strategic role, you're setting the vision, clarifying the vision, driving the strategy, doing the portfolio level funding, and all of those key decisions that shape the future. So here is an interesting slide. This is a class profile for fall 2022 class. 34 students, grade breakdown, female and male. Average age maybe would be relevant. And here are some interesting job titles. There are different people coming from different stages, different careers, perhaps different industries. Some have a lot of them have project management kind of background. Some have product management background. But what it gives you is a sense of, okay, these are all of the different colleagues in my cohort that I'm going to be learning with, and a little bit of learning from, right? So you're going to be learning from each other, from their experiences, and building it up. And such an impressive list of employers, like the top employers in the area and perhaps the country or the world, and including the federal agencies, a lot of small business, medium-sized companies. So a lot of very impressive individuals as well as employers, and you can see in a broad stroke, you can see that a lot of different people from different walks of life are coming into product management, and there is obviously a lot of need for this profession. This profession is growing like anything. This can't fill enough positions. So there's just so much demand right now. All right, I'm gonna hand it back to John and James, and pause here for questions.
Yeah, we invite you to submit questions in the Q&A, and hope that you've enjoyed this brief overview of product management career pathways. And the one thing I'd like to do, just to kind of get us started here for a moment, is ask actually our two practicing product managers how they came to be product managers. And as you all hopefully can see here, and there's a Q&A button there. You can go ahead and submit your questions there. The chat is going to be right now. We prefer to take questions through the Q&A, so please do so there. But we created a new pathway into product management. We're one of the first universities to create a product management master's degree, seeing the need. But let's start with you, Michael, and then we'll go to Tushar. How did you come into product management?
Sure. No, great question. So I actually got in the medical device field. I wanted to do something different, and I researched it, decided to go into medical device. I got a taste of my first product that I worked on as a quality engineer, and I decided I wanted to take over a whole product line. So I decided to go into product management. And my first product that I did, I wrote the marketing plan, the business plan. I got to do a lot of the engineering. It was kind of a dream come true. And that kind of gave me my passion for getting more involved into things, seeing how I could make an impact and how I could influence things and use my background and knowledge and my education. I was hooked. So I think it was partly from my educational background. It was partly from the medical device industry and seeing how to create an actual widget. And like I said, I was hooked from there on end. And I was lucky enough to work in manufacturing, R&D, quality, marketing. I got to work in all the different areas to get a better understanding. So I think a lot of times to do well in product management, you need to immerse yourself into some of those areas. But that's kind of how I got involved. I created a product and I was hooked. I saw how it impacted patients. I remember going to the VA hospital and seeing a gentleman received one of our products, and he sat up and drank a cup of water. He said, "That's the first time I had a cup of water in 6 months." And so I was hooked from there on in. So
Wow.
that's a kind of a quick story of how I got involved.
And Tushar?
Sure. So back in 2012, feels like a long time ago. When I joined PayPal, I had a lot of experience in project management, technical project management, engineering, all of those pieces. And I was thrown into this tech product management company known for building world-class products, global products. And I was trained. I learned on the job. I observed, and I saw the difference that good product management practices can make. And what is it that you do? How do you really understand what is the right thing to do versus what is not the right thing to do? How do you make those decisions that you can scale? How do you do all of the pre-work that goes into really making sure that you are delivering value on a consistent basis across demographics, across product lines, right? So, and then how do you build products that are legally compliant in 80 different markets, 120 different countries, and keep scaling, right? So what are the different strategies? What are the platforms? What are the products? How do you build the features? How do you prioritize, deprioritize? How do you avoid the confusion that sometimes your products cause? How do you listen to your customer? As simple as it may sound, it's not, right? So I learned a lot of this the hard way, and I learned that product management is a field where you go in with open eyes and ears, and you start learning and you don't stop learning, right? So it's a profession that you just continuously grow into. And I also realized as I made the transition that even though at first the field seemed entirely new, I already had a set of transferable skills that helped me become successful, right? So it wasn't like I had to start from scratch, which may be applicable to a lot of the audience here. If you already have experience, you may be able to take that skill. And with a structured program like this, where we bring in a lot of expertise and the frameworks and experience and knowledge, you can reuse and retool your skill set to deliver product management and bring value to the career.
Excellent. Wow. Let me go ahead. I'm going to start with the first one. It's one that many are going to have an opinion on. So short, punchy answers. In plain English, what's the difference between a project manager and a product manager? And I'm just going to add on to that today.
I can jump in. So projects help us focus on the outputs, whereas products really help us focus on the outcomes. Products are really about answering the question what and the why, help us deliver value, eliminate waste. Those lean management concepts that John was talking about, putting those things into practice is what product management is truly about, right? There's a lot of overlap. It's not about one being better than the other. These are complementary professions, and product management and project management tap into each other to successfully deliver outcomes or outputs. But one cannot work without the other. While one, the project management focuses on the how and getting those pieces done, product management asks the fundamental questions like, why are we doing this in the first place? And what is the value that we're going to deliver? Because if it doesn't deliver the value, it goes back to the slide, John, that you were talking about feasibility and desirability and marketability and all of that, right? So if we are not delivering value, why are we even doing it?
Totally. Anything to add, Michael?
Yeah, really good answer, Tushar. I would just add, when I think of product side of things, I think of voice of customer and requirements, right? Especially a med device, really getting to know the customer, which to us isn't just a physician, it's nurses, it's sales reps. And I think of those requirements and that voice of the customer. It sounds easy. It's very difficult, and it's iterative, and it's trying to validate. So I would add that on top of it, but I agree with everything else Tushar said.
I agree. I want to add my own spin on it too, which is that like Tushar said, the worlds are colliding, and Michael said it's all about the customer. That's why actually when you saw how PMI shifted to value focus on its delivery, they realized that project managers need to be doing product management work and validating and revalidating and overlapping with what previously was handed to them as a set of requirements. Because you can't just, because things change too fast, because you need to, because value is what matters, not just hitting the goal. So while one may own delivery and how, and the other is owning the value and why, they overlap so much because you need to constantly deliver to get feedback and learn if why you're building it is really true and if it's really going to create value. And likewise, the how is going to, if you're delivering, you need to make sure that it's still valuable. And so there's a lot of overlap there. But I think the thing that got me when I was doing Agile and as a senior Agile project manager is that product management was missing. It is totally absent from most skill sets. I would say in most people, even those with MBA degrees, they come in and they don't know how to do customer discovery. They don't know how to learn from the customer. They don't know how to validate early in terms of engineering and technical risk and how to work across all the different functions. It's a cross-functional role. And so when you look at market analytics and they ask what are the most important skills for project manager, the most important skills are product management. And product manager is a growing new role because of the way in which we're working in an agile manner. So the plain English is how versus why, but in the end, they work together tightly if both roles exist in the company. Going next, we have a comment that says, my PhD project involves developing a medical app, and I have a little experience in managing a small ER, but don't know how to transfer this previous knowledge to the current project. I think that sounds a little bit specific, but how could one take the experience of working and managing a small emergency room and transfer that into the need for developing a medical app? Maybe we could hypothesize momentarily about that. How might that operational experience translate back into product discovery for a new medical app?
Well, so this is Michael. I think it comes down to product requirements, right? What are your requirements? What's the voice of the customer? That's where I would start to try to create that app and what it looks like and how effective it can be. You got to do some market research / customer research to understand what that might look like. That's my initial thoughts.
How do you? Gosh, reflecting on my career, I felt like I was managing an ER room while doing product management all the time. I think those skills will come in real handy, more handy than you might think, right? So, jokes aside, I think that there is a real focus in that career on solving customer problems on an urgent and immediate basis, and you have to constantly prioritize, you have to constantly deliver value, you have to constantly deal with limited resources. And those are really the frameworks that we'll be talking about in a more formalized manner, among other things. So I really feel like you can build on your experience there.
Yeah. Excellent. Next question. So the question was mainly about how could one go about building their way. In this case, the question was about project management roles, and how could they have a pathway through either software architecture or a technical role or a project management role, and what would be kind of the typical way you go about moving, I think, in this case, from, let's say, just starting, like you're just coming out of school, it's a bachelor's degree, and you're just starting in the world of either engineering or technology. And what does that look like? Like what would be a fair set of expectations for someone just getting started? It sounds like this person is just getting started in their career, and they haven't yet seen how people evolve through their roles.
So one comment I have at where I work, they have a rotational program for new graduates. So I would see if you could rotate into a software architectural role, an engineering role, maybe even the project manager role, if that's possible. So I see a lot of people where I work that are able to do that and really figure out what they want to do from having those experiences. So that's just one idea. We're a big company, so we're able to do that. But I worked at startups too, where I've been able to try different things on. So that would be my advice.
Yeah, I think that's very good advice, and I think that in large organizations, there are ways to transition within the organization and learn on the go and on the fly. Others may not be as lucky, and you have a great institution here that's offering you a start. You're going to learn a lot of key practices, known frameworks, things that you can build up on, actual work that you can do and demonstrate. So you can take the work that you do as a part of the program and demonstrate to a current or a future employer to transition into career. Right. So you can take this opportunity here.
Yeah, I want to take it back here just a moment because I'm actually going to go back up 2 slides here. But normally, if you're getting started, you're in a junior role, doing analyst or developer work, and you're going to be doing that for a year or 2 at least before you start taking on some assistant product manager or associate product manager role responsibilities, and as Tushar showed here, and it's usually 1 to 2 years that you're kind of will be considered new hire before you go to mid hire, and you might be playing this role or kind of taking your next step up in your career, and then you would continue to grow and choose a direction that you want to go in. Do you want to become technical? Do you want to become management oriented? Do you want to go in terms of management? Do you want to focus on delivery? Do you want to focus on discovery? And that tends to then drive your decisions as you grow in your career. And then if you want to take the product pathway, this is what Tushar laid out for you, is that you can decide in your career later as a technical lead to transition over, or as a project manager, in this case, a managerial lead. And so all of those are ways in which you can then decide to laterally move into product and then grow from there. And I think that's where education can really offer a person an opportunity to make lateral moves really effectively.
I would also add to this slide, if I mapped out my career, it would be zigzag, up, down, over, back up, back down. It's not a straight line up, so don't think it has to be straight line up. There's other opportunities, other things to learn. So it really is kind of a zigzag pattern, I think, for most people.
Yep. There's another question here that I want to answer with this slide, which is, isn't it that product management really represents higher realms of outcomes versus outputs, utility versus quality? And I think that's a common misperception, that product managers are all strategists and CEOs of the product. And it's actually an anti-pattern I would offer to good product management. And so hopefully, just a quick review of this. As you can see here, as you grow, yes, in terms of like your levels of responsibility in a product, you do have more and more responsibility for visioning and outcomes in terms of delivering on roadmaps with operational work. But frankly, for the first 10, 15, 20 years of your product career, you're going to be doing a lot of tactical work. You're going to be doing blocking and tackling on features, validating that this is really what's needed to meet this part of the product and to fit within what others are doing on product teams within your organization to help build out the platform. It is not you come in and you just lay down your, armchair vision of where everything's going and you Steve Jobs your way through the rest of your career. You actually are a part of a team and you need to learn and lead the team through learning to do a really great job of product management. Anyone, and I would say also quality matters a lot for product managers, and designing for quality, designing for manufacturability, designing for serviceability are key approaches that are used by the best product companies in the world. They don't just think about the outcomes; they have to think about how to get there, and that's why these we talk so much about worlds colliding. Anyone else want to add on?
Yeah, I would agree, John. I think you summed it up well. I think a lot of tactical work. I spent a lot of time in quality. I spent a lot of time in manufacturing. That brings in different perspectives to that product role. And I spent a lot of time working on requirements and customers. And I'm even in a role now where I'm working with the customer all the way to manufacturer because of all those experiences. So I'm kind of like ahead of product, so to say, but I'm only that because of all the experiences I have. They put me into that position because they need someone that has a little bit of everything. So it depends how you want to go through, but I think you summed it up well. You're not going to get into that strategic part until you've cut your teeth and done a lot of that tactical work.
Yeah, yeah, and just to add on top of Mike and John, I would say that product management is different kind of work. It's not necessarily better work, different, higher level work or lower level work. It's a different body of work, right? And it's a body of work that is oftentimes found missing in organizations. Organizations are extremely busy. If you look at it in individual level or team level, they are working as hard as can be. But when you look at it at the overall level, then are they really producing value? Are they building stakeholder value, customer value, business value? What do their business metrics look like? What does the adoption look like? And a lack of focused thinking at multiple levels, starting from strategic to operational to technical. A lack of that is what causes everyone being busy, a lot of money being spent, and yet value not being delivered. And that's the difference that product management brings.
Yeah. Following directly from that, we have a great question, which is, what are the key skills that are needed in order to do this kind of work? Maybe we could each give one or two that we think are central to being really effective in the role. And obviously, this won't be a complete list because there's going to be a lot of them. But or maybe three. Tushar, you want to start us off? What are the where do you think are the top 3 skills that a product manager needs?
So you'll find a lot of interesting answers if we just try to Google search it or ask ChatGPT or whatever. But my favorite one based on my experiences is the ability and willingness and courage to ask stupid questions. And I just love that, because too many times people assume that everyone else knows the answer and I'm the only one who doesn't. So I'm just going to nod my head, go with the flow and just be there and look smart or whatever, right? That's not the job. Product management is about asking some very basic fundamental questions. What are we doing? Why are we doing this? Yeah, you may have answered it 100 times. Can you say it one more time for me? Right. And as Einstein has famously said, or is attributed to him, right? If they can't explain it simply, they don't understand it fully. How well do you really understand it? Are you sure that you should be building this, right? Why are we building? Why are we spending all this time, money, energy, and resources to build this? Is it just because someone said so, someone sitting high up? Or is it because of a competitor did this? Or is it because someone, came in your dream and said, yes, you should build this? Is it because one or two customers, the loudest customers, are complaining? Do all the customers really want it? Right? Ask those stupid questions, right? And bring that conversation that is not currently happening in the organizations. Put it on the table. Talk through it, right? And make sure that you have the data to back it up. You have a strategy to deliver. It aligns with the overall vision of the organization, of the product line, the product portfolio, right? And you can really build it up from there.
Michael.
Yeah, I kind of in the same idea. I think one of the big things is I look at a product, what is its value? I think that's a big thing now that people ask, leaders ask, senior leaders, shareholders ask, what's the value this product is bringing? In my world, it's helping patients, right? That's the value. But in the business world, we have to have, financials and whatnot. So what's that value that it's bringing? The other thing I wrote down is I think as a product manager, you need to be really good at figuring out customer needs. And that, again, that sounds easy and you can make a list, but sometimes customers don't know what they need. So you have to be able to interpret that and figure that out. And the last thing is, as a product manager, you need to keep asking why. Constantly keep asking why. It doesn't, just because you start the project out and do it one way doesn't mean midway through or at the end, you shouldn't still be asking why, because things develop, you learn things, and you constantly have to ask why. So I think that's really important when people keep asking why and try to get down deep into what is the goal here and continue that. I think that's really important to product managers.
Absolutely. We have a question that is really interesting and might be fun to kind of see what we've seen so far, how is AI, ChatGPT changing product management today? What are you all seeing right now? Because I do think that actually this is one of those roles that is going to be significantly impacted by AI.
Yeah. And it's hard to not think about it, right? In today's day and age, looking at everything that's happening, and especially for tech products, one of the best comments I liked is, if your product does not have AI, it's only a matter of time, right? So essentially, being AI is going to be a part of tech products eventually for almost any product, right? And AI is, sometimes misplaced, misunderstood, but really, I mean, some version of AI, and we are seeing a lot of generative. There are many different types of AI. The ChatGPT being generative AI, and then there are many other industry leading models and stuff that are being incorporated in some way or another. AI as a service is being developed, and all these different incarnations of AI are going to come about. And the idea here is that it's so in general, for product managers, AI as a product is no different from any other product. You're doing your product, applying your product management principles to build out AI-centric products. The difference is you have this very smart, intelligent way of solving problems now. How do you, and the framework remains the same. The basic questions that you have to ask and answer remain the same. The context is what changes, right? So in the context of the innovation that is happening now and taking over the world, how are you going to solve this problem? So earlier today, I was actually talking to John about AI and customer service, and we were talking about how phone-based customer service, then came the email-based, and came chat-based, and now it's going to be AI chatbot based, or it's going to be audio bots, right? So, and it's going to be intelligent bots, and you can see versions of some of these being implemented by products like Lemonade and others, where you have really smart AI. It is, and you'll be surprised if you don't know much about Lemonade. It's in the insurance business. They don't have a single on live agent. You cannot call anyone, and customers love them. How is that possible? Because they did a very smart, intelligent use of current technologies and AI, right? So it's only a matter of time, and we'll talk about cases as a part of the program, and we'll walk through a number of those different things. Really rapid transformation happening right now. Very exciting times.
Yeah. I wanted to offer up as well that AI enabling product management is something that we're starting to see a lot. Is people are looking for ways of generating ideas, but there's a limitation of the ability. And the question had some parts of it, a little bit longer question about, replacement. And here's the thing: you're learning and discovering when you are doing product management, and you're learning, discovering about people's behavior, which is constantly changing. AI is driven based off of what already exists, like large language models that we see in ChatGPT. This is based off of the body of text and literature that's out there right now. But as a product manager, you're constantly pushing and discovering on the edges of your market, your customer, your product. And so that's not something that can be mined in an existing database, although great ideas can come from looking at and peering into other areas and asking for what are some ways that we can do this. You can't learn and test that without having a product manager at the helm, a human brain that can really do that well. So just remember that all of these technologies, they're based off of what exists today. In product management, you are constantly discovering and delivering what will be next. We've got also a question about, is it better to have a perfect strategy? Oops. Looks like that question got answered. So here's a question that is, what's the best way to make, okay, so this question's a little bit different. So the question is, what is the best way to make, to get into innovation, either in product, and to be a product manager as a researcher? So if you are a researcher right now and you want to perhaps transfer technology, and also grow your role? What are some of the opportunities that exist for researchers to become product managers or as a product manager?
So I'll take the first part of the question where I think it touches on the innovation piece, innovation and product management. And I'll say that innovation is an essential piece, kind of an everyday job of a product manager. You need to constantly innovate. You innovate in small ways, you innovate in big ways, and you are constantly coming up with new ways to solving that customer's problem, right? So now is your skill as a researcher is going to come in handy as you innovate or as you think through it. I would caution though that we should avoid the overall mindset of a researcher, the typical mindset of a researcher being analysis paralysis or overly researching for the purpose of ending their own natural curiosity or for really getting to the depth of something. This is a very focused research that leads to solutions, implementable solutions that solve customer problems here and now, right? So you take your research skills and you orient them to solving problems at hand.
So I would agree with Tushar. I think a lot of times it's a little harder to go from researcher to product manager. It's possible. But I think you have to be determined and know how you want to do it and maybe have a mentor or a manager to work with to do that. So I think it can be done, but I think innovation to research the product project, that can be difficult. That technology research area is kind of different in itself. So moving out of that area can sometimes be difficult just by itself.
And so we're now at 7:28. I'm gonna go ahead and look to wrap up as we're getting close to the hour here. As I do, and based off of the questions that we had so far, I'd like to just ask for some closing thoughts from each one of our presenters, and then we'll turn it back over to James to wrap us. But when we go Michael, then Tushar, then myself. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, thanks, John. So I think product management, as you've seen, is an exciting area. There's a lot of, you get a lot of different things coming at you. You get to work on different products. I mean, I just can't say how impactful it's been in my my career, my journey, and it still is. So I encourage you to look into this program. I think it's a great program. I think there's a lot of things you'll learn, and it's a fun area to be in.
Yeah, I totally echo that. I think product management is a happening place. This is where the focus is. This is a lot. There's a lot that you can do in perhaps any industry, right? You can really make a difference, and you can see that your work translates into actual decisions, into impact to your customers, and that can be a very rewarding feeling, right? So it's one thing to make a good living, and trust me, you'll make a great living doing this. It is even more rewarding to actually see the impact of the work that you did in terms of the customer's experience, reduce frustrations, things that you could do or they could do but that they could not do otherwise, how it placed your company, how you set them up, how you made some strategic decisions that went a long way, right? So really, truly a really rewarding profession, and what a great program. I wish we had something like this 10 years ago when I started in the industry, right? To help really understand. I mean, I had to learn things the hard way. I had to fail 10 times, and we are not saying that you won't fail, but what a great foundation that we can provide over here.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. I think the opportunity to work with people like you, with both of you, Michael and Tushar and James, and the chance to be a part of a community that is curious and making the kind of impacts Tushar mentioned and Michael talked about in both of their stories. I'm lucky enough to be a product manager at the University of Maryland with many courses going live on a regular basis, over 500,000 enrolled. And the best feeling is when you get a chance to hear the stories and the feedback about how what you've developed has helped someone have a better relationship with their children, or solve major problems at work, or feel connected during the pandemic. And that really motivates you. It motivates you to want to keep on doing better and learn how to do better and learn what's needed, and then figure out ways to deliver that. So very exciting to be a part of this program, and to help bring more product managers to the industries that need them.
Yeah, and if I could, just say a few words, at the end, I would say that, our biggest piece of advice is probably to either start learning or keep learning about the product management space. So, at the university, there are a variety of ways that we are engaged in that. Some of them are free. So many of you may have heard about tonight's offering from edX, and there are a number of courses that our team offers in and around product management with edX. And so that's a great way of just getting acquainted with the topic. If you heard terms or acronyms or other things that were less familiar, that is surely fine. We all learn in the beginning at some point. And so doing one of the free edX courses, is a great way of, learning in kind of a structured way with the timeline. But putting your time to use in that way and building some of those initial skill sets. We also offer certificates on edX. So if you want to do a bit more, spend a little more time, spend a little more money, and get credentialed in that way, you can do that in product management there. And then, as was mentioned, we also offer our master's program, an online master's program, 15-month program that is exclusively online. You can earn it from anywhere globally. And that's a program here that we've linked at the end. So that PRODUCT.UMD.EDU will bring you to that program page as well. So again, a variety of ways to learn. I think to spend an hour with us here on a Tuesday night, at least East Coast time, is to be appreciated. And again, I would encourage you to kind of keep learning in, one of those modes.